Well, hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. How are you doing? I want to talk to you about taking on a new role or a new responsibility because either one can be really scary. And it is possible to get stuck in fear. Ask me how I know. Before 2 years ago, this month, I was stuck in fear about producing video content. Now I am here on this channel nearly every Friday producing live video content as a creator. And from idea to execution, I've had to make so many workflow changes and updates to my processes. And this month is about reflecting on some of those workflow changes in that I've had to make and things that I've had to learn. So let's talk about making these changes while learning to become a live video creator. Hey, I'm Florence and I help purpose-driven leaders and entrepreneurs streamline your productivity workflows, your processes, find and eliminate system friction, and I do that through videos, building community, and coaching individuals, purpose-driven leaders who want to do what I just said. You want to be productive, you want to accomplish all of your goals. So, welcome to Purposeful Productivity. So glad to have you here with me. And on YouTube, I'm called Equip Institute, but my real name is Florence. So, I'm going to talk about some processes that I had to go through in this journey. But before I do that, I want to say hello to my friends, you guys who are out there in the building with me tonight. I just want to greet you and say good evening to you. I'm going to start with Frank Jackson saying good afternoon, everyone. Well, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever part of the world you may be in. It could be a different time zone. And I'm going to say, moderator, to salute to you, Mr. David Hunt. So glad to have you in the building. And, sir, I am looking for great things coming from you uh, after the earlier conversation we had. Then we have, yes, this gentleman reminds me every week, the emotional CEO, Happy Life Tribe. And let me just say, there are those who are commenting in the building, and I'm so glad you're here. But you may be listening and not commenting because perhaps you are taking kids to a practice, or you're cooking dinner, or you're just engaged in another activity and you can't comment. But welcome to the live tribe. So glad you're here. And if you're part of the replay crew, leave a comment, leave a question. I want to answer your questions about this topic that we're talking about tonight in the show. And yes, Studio G is in the house. Hello, Miss Gretchen. Thank you. It's time for Florence Friday fun. It can be kind of hilarious watching me try to learn how to do this stuff. So thank you. And I'm gonna start calling you Miss Studio G because lady, you built that bookcase. You built that bookcase. I'm so happy for you, and it's coming along just like you want. And I think I commented on one of your videos. I wasn't sure if I had more fun watching you do all of this stuff or watching you and your husband work together. Both of them are fabulous. So glad to have you guys in the building with me. And what I want to talk about I'm going to talk about these processes tonight, and in it go through some steps to answer two questions. But before I answer my question, what I want you to do is put in the chat a new role that you have started recently, something that potentially will affect your everyday processes, what you are how you currently do whatever it is you do, whether it's in your home, in your business, in your job, in your volunteer service, something new that you've taken on relatively recently, like in the year 2024, somewhere in the last 9, 10 months or so. It doesn't have to be huge, but put something in the chat. And if you are new here, I want you to put hashtag newbie. I don't see any newbies in, but if you are new here, please put hashtag newbie in the chat so I can greet you. And hello. I'm going to come back to one other person that I and say moderator salute to you, Mr. Gary Jones. Moderator salute to you, sir. So glad to have you in the building with us. So if you haven't heard me say that, the folks who I am getting to know as moderators on various channels, I always want to acknowledge them because I am learning from you. And hello, Tech Troublemaker. So glad to have you in the building. One of the absolutely a Live Tribe member, been here from day one. So let's go through these lessons. I want to run these through by you real quick so you can kind of relate to what I'm talking about here. And so this year, I've been going through process changes just as I did last year. This year, I'm focusing on my journey specifically, and I want to talk through over this next few weeks about this journey of becoming a live video creator. So, the first one is learning my live stream software. And I use Ecamm. If you want to know about Ecamm, there's a link in the description. You can definitely try it. But learning the process of incorporating learning Ecamm into everything I do on camera, whether it's in a meeting or live streaming or recording a video, whatever, just learning to use the software. The next one is learning YouTube basics. See, when I started, I didn't know anything about YouTube other than I could watch a video. But other than that, I really didn't know anything. So learning the basics and incorporating into my processes, checking my analytics and scheduling and responding to comments and adding in screens, all that stuff, learning those, putting those into my workflows. The next one is creating an actual production workflow for doing live video, actually creating a checklist, a process, and getting relatively decent at it. I'll say relatively decent. The next one is learning to create a plan a planned content schedule. And I'm getting better at this one, but it's also one of the processes that I had to incorporate and figure out how to put it into my daily workflow. And the final one that I'm going to share is setting up and managing a method for the community to connect with me, whether I'm live or at a different place. So I've done some things there, and all of those required me to either take on a new workflow or change an existing workflow. So both of those are true when you take on something new. And in my case, again, I'm talking about this last year in this being a live video content creator. And I see you out there, Miss Yolanda. So glad to have you in the building. Welcome. You are definitely part of the live tribe as well here. And Miss Denise, Apron Diva, doing good things. Lady, I thought about you in those grocery halls and teaching people how to shop when that whole strike thing happened. I was like, Denise for the win. Denise for the win. So awesome. So let's get into the first question or decision. This is really making decisions. In all of that stuff, I had to decide which of my existing processes to change because they weren't all going to change at the same time. How did I do that? And first of all, looking at each of those sets of processes that I talked about is I needed to identify what needed to change. Was it, in some cases, the change is taking on something new. Example, I didn't know Ecamm at first, so that was a whole new set of processes for me to take on. So the things that I looked at is, yeah, I can turn the software on. I'm good at that. But over time, bit by bit, how do I incorporate some process within what I do day to day, week to week, What are the things I need to put into my regular daily workflow relative to learning eCam and using it so that I would get better? And it wasn't just taking on more and more and more and didn't feel and it felt overwhelming to me. That was one, identifying the need within each of those things that I talked about. YouTube basics, content planning, workflow changes. And then also listening to my community, watching my content. So those are ways, listen to the community feedback, whether it was email, text messages, comments during the show, comments on a video, just conversation, listening to what people were saying to me, what you all are saying to me, so that I can figure out what else do I need to adjust. So you're important to me. That was a big one. The next one is assessing current workflows. Well, everything on that list that involved me becoming a live video creator was new. None of it existed or was in my regular process. So then I had to assess my current workflows and say, what in here changes need to change? Either I need to, it's only a few things you can do. I need to stop doing something. I need to figure out something that I'm doing that I can modify. I can figure out where the inefficiencies and roadblocks are. I can figure out what I can ask others to do. So assessing each existing workflow and then looking at that in the context of what I was taking on. So making that assessment, and it wasn't just thinking about it. This is the key. I didn't just think about it, I wrote it down. Many people I know will think about, I need to make a change. The key is when you think it, write it down so that you can have a way of tracking what am I changing and not change too many things at the same time, and then you can't figure out what's working and what isn't. Number 3 in that figuring out what to change is setting some clear goals, being specific about what I wanted to accomplish with respect to, example, learning YouTube basics, wanting to get very, very efficient at scheduling the shows. Let me give you an example of this, and we can come back to it if you ask questions. I design my content workflow is I set a big topic for the month. Then I break it down. What is it that I'm hoping to share with you? But not only what I'm hoping to share with you, what I'm hoping can deliver and you can take away is an actionable piece of information that you can apply in your own systems. I break that down week by week. I write a brief for the entire month every month. And it is fine. What's the goal? What's the mission? What are the specific objectives? And break down week by week. I turn that brief over to the emotional CEO. And if you need a great designer, he is one. He takes that, reads it, because he knows my voice, he knows how I think, he's got the brief. Then he creates not only thumbnails, but he creates social media graphics as well that represent that content flow for the month. With respect to YouTube, I then take the thumbnails, and this was a big productivity boost for me. I just put a draft live stream in YouTube. I do it all in about 10, 15 minutes for the entire month. I don't worry about the description. I don't worry about the title. I just get the thing started. I mark it private. I put the thumbnail in. I set the date. Now I've got time to go back, work through titles and descriptions and tags and hashtags, all the other stuff that goes into that description. But I don't have to be looking for the graphics, going setting it up. It's just there ready for me to go. That's what I mean by set a very specific objective when you want to change and improve part of your workflow. Just wanted to give you a really easy example. You all may know this because all of you live stream, so you may know this. The last thing is try it, pilot it, review it, and do it again. I call it plan, do, review. Plan what you're going to do, that change, do it, try it, look at it again and review the results, and go back and make incremental changes as you go. So I'm going to stop there. I got some folks who are commenting, want to see what you guys are talking about. And for this first piece, answering this first question, deciding to change existing processes, put in the chat one takeaway from what I've shared so far that you can apply in your own workflows. I would love to see what that is, because you're probably going to come up with something that I didn't think of. So let's see who's saying what out here. You all are greeting each other. Autocorrect gone wrong. I love it. I want to go back. Hello, Miss Yolanda. Ravens Talk with Yolanda. And Gary Jones, yes, Ecamm for the win. I'm not sure I would be as effective as I am in terms of making some of the changes without Ecamm, because I could learn at least the basics. I won't say I'm a pro at it, but I could at least learn the basics. I'm looking. Nobody's put anything in there. Okay. All right. Did I stun you into silence? I know I saw Denise Jordan in here. Where you go, ma'am? There you are. Hello, Miss Denise Jordan. And she's also Apron Diva. If you go to aprondiva.com, it's getting that time of year where you may be looking for some Christmas gifts. You could go visit her. All right. Let's move on to the next thing that I'm going to talk about. And this is the first one was deciding to change existing processes. So making the decision that I'm going to have to change some of my existing processes. Like I said, that could be adding, removing, or delegating. What are the decision points along the way to get there? The second half of that is you will find a lot. I found a lot, and I could not change them all at the same time. If you've ever had what I'm about to describe happen in your world, put a 1 in the chat. You see something that you want to make quote unquote better in your life, and you think, I'm just going to do it. And you find out that to get to the result, it takes you more steps than you thought. It wasn't a one and done. I could think it and suddenly it was better. But you found out to get to the objective, you needed to make small incremental steps. If you can do that, just put a 1 in the chat. Let me know that somebody else other than me experienced that. I would love to know that I'm not out here by myself. Hey, Michael Flemings, glad to have you in the building. So what did Florence do to deal with all of these changes that she faced? And she needed to figure out which ones to tackle. Well, the first step was prioritizing the high impact areas or processes. What do I mean by high impact processes? Years and years and years ago, I had a mentor teach me this principle of focusing on revenue generating activities. Revenue generating, most people think of that as cash coming in. And yes, that is part of it, cash coming in. But as you all know, I believe and I operate from getting a return on my investment of time. If I'm going to put the time in, get back what I expect to get back from the time that I put in. That return is revenue generating for me. So it's cash is one way of thinking about it, but the other way is, are you really achieving what you want to achieve and you expect to achieve for the time that you're putting in? And is that thing that you're working toward getting you where you want to go? So high impact areas. So I focused on what are the things that will have the most positive effect on how well I produce content. What are those activities? What are those processes? So the list that I shared with you at the beginning are things that are high impact areas. There's a return. There's a return on time. There's a return hopefully for you that you're getting value from things like what I described, being able to plan out the month, plan out the topic, have the streams basically started, scheduled, and pretty much ready to go. So that, not only process, there's a process of creating content, you all know this, but there's also a process of promoting that content. Goes back to when I shared the emotional CEO makes social media post graphics specifically, and then he teaches me other things like how often to post and what kind of things to post, just like all around how to do this. Promoting it so that people are aware of the content. And then the technical setup, setting up scenes in Ecamm, setting up overlays in Ecamm, getting lighting better than it was, getting a different microphone and how to work with the microphone. Those kinds of high return activities, areas, I figured out the processes that would affect that. That was the high return. Any other kind of little busy work, don't care about it. Let it go. It would be fun, but it wasn't going to give a return. Okay. The second one, I said this before, is getting input from the team. I have someone in my life who every week reminds me of the things I need to do with respect to being ready to go at 6:30. We review the stream and recorded videos, and I get direct feedback from that team member. I already shared with you all that the emotional CEO gets my briefs, and based on what he gives back to me or questions he asks me, I know if I'm hitting the mark or not. So I'm taking that feedback and making adjustments. It's not always easy for me to hear, and some days I'm as dingy as they come, but I'm open to figure out ways to get more efficient, more productive from the people who I trust, who are closest to me on my team, because I know they have my back even when I don't have it, if that makes sense to you. The third thing is analyzing my metrics. This one, the emotional CEO works with me because I'm still working on this, but learning how to read the basics of YouTube. I said I had to learn YouTube basics. So analyze my metrics. Are I getting more views? Am I getting more engagement? Are people connecting? Are people showing up? What kind of results? Are people reading the blogs? Are people reading the emails? Are people engaging with the social media post? If those things are happening, then I'm delivering value because that tells me, gives me the feedback, the performance metrics, the data points to understand what's happening outside of what I emotionally feel about it. I'm very attached to my content, but if it's not helping anybody, me being attached to it is worthless. So using whatever data points you need for yourself in your process to give you the feedback or to receive the feedback to know how well you're doing, whether the adjustments you're making is having an impact or not. The next one is staying flexible and open. I shared this. Not always easy for me to hear the feedback. Frequently not. But having a mindset that I'm willing to adapt and embrace new ideas and changes and test them is key to this making a decision. Which processors am I changing? Because that feedback has given me what are the things I need to focus on. If and so just getting that feedback loop in, making changes, giving it back, getting more feedback, and going through that cycle. Again, plan, do, review. And this last one is looking external, not so much in within the community and within the team here, but looking at the changes that are happening in the systems, in the software, and in the tools that I'm using. Ecamm has made a lot of changes. One of my favorite changes is Ecamm for Zoom. I absolutely, ooh, I love Ecamm for Zoom. It has made it so much easier to do some of the things that I'm doing. Hey, Ananea, glad to have you here. Moderator, salute to you, ma'am. And so understanding those changes, some of the changes that YouTube has put out using community posts. When I started, community posts weren't openly available to everyone. They are. So monitoring those types of changes, whether it's software that I have or something like a change in YouTube, but then looking at those trends and saying, how do I adapt my process to take advantage of these trend changes? Will it make a difference? Is there a return on investment for me to make a change using this thing? Hey, Aubrey, so glad to have you here. I'm so excited to have you here. Loving the daily writes. I'm going squirrel here. I don't always get to be there when you're doing the live write, so I do it later and then I try to remember to post you a comment to let you know that I did the writing exercise for the day. So thank you so much. Aubrey is, if you've never heard her, she does a daily post that inspires me. My team will tell you I love a good quote. So, Aubrey, I love them. And then she also does a co-writing stream at noon, but you can always go back and do the co-writing during the replay. So if you haven't had a chance, I would encourage you to check her out. Even if you don't like writing, it will inspire you. So those are the things that I've done to um, start to figure out what to change, how it's going to flow, the decisions that I had to make. And over the next few weeks, I'm going to start to break down some of this. So I'm going to go back to my team here. You guys are awesome, awesome, awesome. Hey, hey, Aubrey, I said hi, but glad to see you here in the building with us. And I did see one of the channel moderators, Miss Inanea. Glad to have you here in the building. Yes, Roy, it did. You did your interview with Coulter Reed, and something was happening weird with his camera, and you just took him out of Ecamm interview and put him into Zoom and kept right on trucking. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, you're most welcome. You're most welcome. I didn't know I was encouraging you. I'm over here trying to get a little bit of that consistency from you in writing. I'm looking to see if anybody else has something to share. If you have a question, go ahead and drop it in to the comments, and I'll be glad to answer a question about this. If there's something else you want to know, and you can always leave a comment or a question after the fact if you go back and look at the replay. Just want to close out this week with this is my anniversary month of October. This is year 2, and this is the reflection time. But my desire is not just to have it be about me, but to help share with you some strategies and techniques as you look at something new you've taken on in your world. And you know you need to make changes to get it to fit and to flow and to work for you. What are the steps you go through to make that happen? The output will occur for you. There's a difference between getting output by brute force and getting output because you have a workflow and a system that is as frictionless as you can make it so that you don't have overwhelm, you're not frustrated, you're not doing things at the last minute and losing your mind. That's the goal. So I have enjoyed having you all here with me this evening. And if you have not done so, I would encourage you to subscribe to the channel. Come back. I'll be here next Friday. And next Friday, I have a special guest who's going to be here. If you're new with us, I have a team of, there's the core 4. And one of them will be here. And these are 4 creators who, as I told them when I started, I'm standing on their shoulders. Now, we've had a little bit of a shift, but one of the core 4 will be here next week, and you'll get to watch him do a little bit of mentoring me through where I am and starting from 0 and growing to where I am now. So I'm excited about that, and I hope to see you back here. I don't see any questions, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to say good night and say, watch the video that's going to pop up right over here, and I will see you guys next Friday, 6:30. Good night, everybody.